Morning, glory, America. Bonjour, hi, Canada. I'm Hugh Hewitt. This is a great week. It's going to be a great week, but it may be the only week that I have a voice because the Guardians are playing the Yankees in the American League Championship Series. The Guardians/Indians have not been in the ALCS since 2016, and this is a very interesting club. They're starting Alex Cobb, who wasn't with the club until the trade deadline and has pitched like 4 games this year, but he's been pretty good. And who knows what Jose is going to do. I think Jose is going to explode, but that's just me. We will see. So this week, don't expect a lot because I'm going to be up late and screaming. However, I do want to do a second monologue today. Normally, I only do one monologue to open the show, but I want to do a second monologue today. There are national security voters out there. There are people who vote based upon the ability of the two candidates comparatively to be the commander-in-chief. And this morning, those national security voters will notice that China is blitzing Taiwan in a big way today. They've got the entire island surrounded. It's in reaction to the election of the new Taiwanese president, who is giving speeches on Taiwan as an independent nation. So they're trying to scare him. Number one, we don't have anything to deal with that. Number two, Wall Street Journal. Scale of Chinese spying overwhelms Western governments. The fact is, last month, the Federal Bureau of Investigation said a Chinese state-linked firm hacked 260,000 internet-connected devices, including cameras and routers in the United States. We are being overwhelmed by Chinese espionage. Xi Jinping. Then, the Wall Street Journal reported 2 days ago, mystery drones swarmed a U.S. military base for 17 days. The Pentagon is stumped. See, they're not allowed under federal law to shoot down those drones. I think that should change. Who's flying the drones and what are they looking for? And it's the drones over SEAL Team 6. It's the drones over our carrier construction. Drones like spy balloons are coming from one place. One place has the technology capable of doing that. It's our foes, our enemies in China, and we're not doing anything about it. Then finally we come to the New York Times revelation. You may remember I brought up the triad in 2015 in the GOP presidential debates. And the triad is America's 3-legged nuclear deterrent. We have ballistic missile submarines under the seas. We have Minutemen missiles in the silos. And we have the B-2 and the B-52s. And I think we have B-1 left that carry nuclear weapons in the air. So air, sea, and land. 3 kinds of nuclear weapons, 3 kinds of delivery system, and they're all older than dirt, right? They're all basically Reagan-era deployed. So the New York Times, W.J. Hennigan was sent forth to spend 6 months studying the triad. Yes, really. He went to General Dynamics up in Connecticut. He went down to, he visited 23 different states to figure out what are we doing to modernize our nuclear weapons. And he went to Barksdale Air Force Base. He went to Northrop Grumman and Savannah River National Laboratory and Naval Submarine Base Kings Bay. He went on the west coast to Lawrence Livermore, up to Naval Base Kitsap in Washington State. He went to the Air Force Base in North Dakota, the Air Force Base in Minnesota, the Air Force Base in South Dakota. He went to Hill Air Force Base in Utah. He went up to General Dynamics Electric Boat in Connecticut. He went everywhere to discover that everything's got to be updated and we're behind schedule and it's going to cost a lot of money. He spent a lot of time talking about the Columbia-class submarine, which I'm glad. We need 12 of those in the water by 2040, and we're not on schedule and we're spending a lot of money. Bottom line, though, he said it's going to cost $2 trillion. $2 trillion. Isn't that amazing? Do you know how much money Joe Biden spent in the first 3 months of his administration? $4 trillion. Did he spend any of it on weapons? No. Did he spend any of it on the industrial base? No. Unless you consider the electric car stations, refueling stations to be part of it, and the Green New Deal was in that first massive Recovery Act that we didn't need. Then came the Inflation Reduction Act, was in fact Inflation-Inducing Act, which spent more money on Green New Deal stuff, and none of it, $7 trillion to $8 trillion of one-time spending by Team Biden and Team Harris, none of it went to defense. We're below 3% GDP. spending on defense. And as a result, they're worried, for example, about the Y-12 national security complex in Oak Ridge. Now, my friend Schroeder probably wants to be a tour guide there. They obviously did not know that our uranium enrichment capacity has gone to near zero. They haven't listened to the Hugh Hewitt show. Dan Poneman, who ran Centrist for a few years, he's retired now, used to be DepSec of Energy under President Obama, would come on and routinely warn about the fact we don't have any uranium enrichment for weapons-grade uranium. We don't. And it's gone. And we've been reducing our ability to produce it, reducing our ability to deploy it. And that affects all of our nuclear weapons. Why do we need nuclear weapons? Because China is building a boatload of them in every kind of, now they're not very good at that. One of their nuke subs sunk last week. I pay attention to this. And so we are comfortably ahead for maybe 5 more years. Maybe 5 more years. Then they're going to have the same number of missiles, the same number of bombers, not yet the same number or class of submarines. We have a decided advantage under the water, but not unless we work hard at keeping it up. So there are national security voters out there. Some of them are supporters of the state of Israel. They note that Israel got whacked twice by Hezbollah this weekend after Joe Biden demanded of Netanyahu that he stop bombing Beirut. So we did. I mean, Israel did. We said, don't do it. Israel said, okay, we won't. And then Hezbollah got their breath and launched 2 devastating attacks on Israel over the weekend. People killed, people wounded, 1 military base, 1 civilian setting, no siren went off. And you got to wonder, why is Joe Biden telling Israel how to fight the war? He's been wrong for a year. They've been wrong since he went and visited Israel early afterwards. That's great. And then ever since then, it's been don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that. They've been wrong every step of the way. So if you're generally a national security voter, maybe you're a member of the military or a veteran, I think it's going to be 70-30. I know there's some high-profile generals that do not like Donald Trump. I know that they have endorsed Kamala Harris. I would like to talk to them at length about their military men and women, and they've come up in the Pentagon where the chain of command is coherent, and usually some minimum amount of capacity is necessary to rise to flag rank, to be a general in the Army or the Marine Corps or the Air Force, or to be an admiral in the Navy. That isn't true about politics. You don't need any competence at all. I can line up for you 5 Republicans and 5 Democrats who should not be anywhere near a voting button in Congress. Matt Gaetz being exhibit number 1 and AOC being exhibit number 2. They're on both ends of the ideological spectrum in Congress, and they're knuckleheads. They have a knucklehead caucus, and I have a knucklehead caucus. And we got to deal with it. But they're never going to be president. Kamala Harris, for reasons which are unusual and rare, is in the position of maybe becoming president, and it is a national security nightmare. She does not have the capacity to do this. She does not have the ability to take in the information. She has very little experience with national security, if any. She sat around at a few meetings. Joe Biden had a lot of experience. He's been a terrible president, maybe the worst president in American history since the Civil War. And I'm here to tell you right now, she would be terrible. There is a silver lining for both parties. If Kamala Harris wins, the Republicans will have a romp in 2026 because we can't take day in, day out Kamala Harris. If you saw her at the church service over the weekend, I'll ask Dwayne to find that. We can't do that. She's campaigning, by the way, in traditional. Why is Kamala Harris campaigning in the black church? Why? Because she's losing critical numbers of African-American voters, especially black men. Why is Barack Obama yelling at black men? Why is he saying the brothers are a problem? Because they don't like Kamala Harris. The answer isn't because black men don't like black women. That's not the answer. The answer is they realize she is an extraordinarily weak candidate, a very weak presence. And either they know or they intuit that weakness is provocative on the world stage. And they look at Tim Walz and they say buffoon. Or as David Urban said on CNN, Elmer Fudd. Apparently Dana Bash never got to watch Looney Tune cartoons when she was growing up because she pretended to ask, who's Elmer Fudd? Maybe they said in her ear, you can't let that pass because then everyone will know that we know and the world knows that Elmer Fudd is Tim Walz. And so she pretended to be surprised by that. We are running against the least, we Republicans, I am a Republican, are running against the least competent ticket ever nominated in modern America, Harris Walz. We ought to win 50 states. I don't think we're going to. I think Trump is going to win. We ought to win 50 states if people are paying attention. But boy, what a bad week she had.